Hey, so I haven't been updating a while, mostly problematically, because, well, living with these people, they'll do stuff. I lost my tape recorder. Wasn't the first time I lost something important. The tape recorder was, it was something they bought anyway, but I should have backed up on it, or banked on it, sorry. It had a lot of things more sentimental than quality. That really messed me up, finding the tape recorder ruined. Because they sent me inside and they ruined stuff. Including this. This Oppo cell phone was hardly the highest, most expensive cell phone they bought for me. That means it had arguably the best sound quality. Hopefully I'm checking it now. I hope it has the best sound quality, because it will really mess me up if I have to wait for a mic. I've returned to being Hikikomori for a while. I'm waiting on certain things, but not a lot of help is there. For example, people have been sending me links to instead of legal links, they've been sending me links to organizations. I'm not an organization guy, just because, you know, I've been in my room for 7 years in the past. Not exactly the best way to develop charisma, you know. I haven't rechecked my email if those contact boxes have worked. Law here is, I think I would say it's pretty bad, but I don't have enough experience with actually dealing with a lawyer. My experience has been with talking to a lawyer's front desk. Even if you get to pay them, it's always some other issue. Mostly, my life has been bouncing up and down so much that I don't have many documents, and they hold most of the documents, you know, the people who send me in. So I'm barricading myself right now. So far I still have like maybe one big tetra pack of juice. I've been drinking my pee as a way to sort of shorten my liquid intake. Of course, it will make me more dehydrated if the science is right. I didn't have time to check anymore. Part of the weakness of you could say being on psych drugs is it messes your mind a lot, messes it to the point where everything, to detail it, will be messed up. It's just an update. I'm canceling I'm signing out, sorry, not canceling it. It's still active, but it's with it's basically DOA at this point. I'm not signing up for Facebook. Twitter, I'm barely replying anymore. Not that I did before. I've even have like some sort of Twitter app emailing me that I have been losing 4 followers every day. So this is it. I've been thinking, like, how do I check this, or how do I like maximize my idea of a Facebook if I don't even maximize the idea of a you could say audio. And that's not setting aside video, because you can't go out. I've ordered through my parents' credit card with their permission a lot of these mics, lapel mics, stuff like that. I'm not sure if it works right now, or how they can send it immediately, especially these others is still compromised by my parents, who sent me in for 1.5 years inside the psych ward until my grandmother died. Then the next is 6 months, ruined my indie film. The next was 4 months, semi-volunteer, just to get the label of bipolar cancelled by a psychiatrist. But ECT though, So that's another mess up fucking part. Then 6 months, lost my indefinite film. 2.5 months loss. I still had the draft, but basically because of the circumstances, I have to reveal to or send my parents the copy of the draft of Railing Against Psychiatry. So that's to my advantage. They're the type of ignorant ones, the type of people that psychiatry love. They like to say that the parents love you, but really the parents just watch some Chinese channel all day. Sometimes they'll try to send you things like, they really love bipolar. So even when my bipolar was cancelled, they really love to send me bipolar links. They keep the medical records. They lost the medical records. The guy that they were saying was not a doctor was the only guy who asked for genograms, which proves that the records were lost. The doctors who don't care, the actual, psychiatrists inside the psych wards, they don't fucking care about genograms or stuff. They don't ask about that. So they hand you medical records, but really they hand it to the parents. It's a rigged system. I'm thinking, like, how do I do a step-by-step when time is running out? I don't know what the next path is. I'm basically hunkering down, meaning technically I can still go out right now in my room, eat whatever junk foods or whatever mess up foods they do to mess up my diet. They basically like to cook for me anyways. Really mess up fucking part, because they're the type of persons to, okay, I bought whey and whey protein, but I'm not gonna buy protein shakes or protein powder, sorry. So like it's like, damn it, okay, we can work this out. I don't need protein because I'm obese. I only need protein so that I can train to guard myself against being kidnapped by 6 persons, basically. So fuck, I have until May 31, 7 days. Ask for my virtual assistant to contact several people, trainers, but trainers are like, we don't train survival skills, and I'm like, fuck. This is only one person, but this was like, damn, the only person that replied is also the one person who's like, they're training to be martial artists. I get that, but I like, dude, man, I need some guy who's like real, that thinks training camp right now, doesn't think, okay, I'm gonna teach this beginner martial arts, this fat obese guy martial arts. No, I need as effective as a model in 7 days. If that 7 days gets extended, like I can have legal TPO, temporary protection restraining order. That means I have not only the cardio, not only the charisma check, not only the mind is fresh, and then I head to a random court. Barangays won't help. It's not that I distrust barangays here, but I sought them for a different issue before, and they were like, oh, you need to go to the court because the census, you have to wait for the census. Confusing thing altogether, because I didn't even know what the law was. I attended this sort of pamphlet for a meeting where you have to ask your barangays and stuff like that. Because my parents have been like slicing me off of the political side of the issue. Basically, not just political side. I can't vote, never taught me to vote, kept me inside. So even before I was in my room for 7 years, I have no idea about that. They kept me there, and that includes everything from saying you can't get any driver's license because you're a student. Had to call a classmate to like shatter their brain. From silly things like we can't eat pizza, like, because pizza is something, I don't know, that basically they have this kind of pathology of things that psychiatry loves, because psychiatry can label as, these people really love you. One day you realize these people love you for sending you inside these places. So that's basically my update. I have to, like, if you want to know more about my situation, I haven't been updating my Anchor.fm, but first story about my rehab, my psych wards. Rehab's Filipino term. Actually, this is part of my problem right now with my brain. It's like it's trying to tell me, it's not like my brain is running on like auto manic I have bipolar now. Like I said previously, I didn't have it. Sorry, previously I had it, got cancelled, then had it again. Different doctors, different diagnosis. It's not like my thoughts are running dry, but my fatigue is high. My mind is, I want to slow down words, but it's not easy. Because I'm trying to associate what I've been indoctrinated with. Like here, rehabs are like, they're not words that mean rehabilitation. They're words that Filipinos use to, like, basically justify anything that sends you back in. They think it's some nice place compared to prison, compared to a lot of stuff, and you get the rest there. They don't factor in that people there don't get out. Life sentence without committing a crime, worse than prison. And yet, plus prison, you get out, you're fucked up. Some crazy people think you're crazy, or you're evil, and at some point you say, okay, I committed some kind of crime, whether it's wrong or false allegations, or it's really right. That's me. That's the right. In the psych ward system, the society even tries to say, what, you're so normal. You just don't tell people you've been into a psych ward, because telling them that, that's how they think you're abnormal. You don't just get enemies, you don't get haters. You either get silence, or you get people who, including our fellow psych ward people, they're confused. They're like saying, look, my family loves me so much, they didn't send me to psych ward, they sent me to a recovery center. Okay, that's better. Okay, why is it better? For one, have you gone to a psych ward? I will pull them back, things like that. It won't be like that. No, I deny your existence of explaining why it's different. Fuck that the fucking psych ward has air conditioned 24 hours. You're living in a cockroach infested recovery center. Just that alone wouldn't like make you rethink your situation. Fuck that. They'll ask the stuff like, tell them, Papu, tell them that psych wards is worse, or it's bad. And their Papu will just say, oh, time to go to sleep, because it was sleep time. You're not allowed to talk much otherwise. And there's a lot of this type of victim obedience modification thing happening in psychology right now, and psychiatry. It's really fucked up. That's why it's worse than prison. You're not out as a neutral or evil person. You're out as a constantly berated person, and it's gonna hit you so many times. And then you have these people that are training you to be codependent. That's already one bad thing, but they're now training you to be even more codependent by having this threat of sending you back in. And people who are inside for one time think it's nothing, but guess what? I've been to multiple times, so I know what I'm talking about. They don't, and I'm not saying their experiences negate that, but the biggest problem is they defend psychiatry. Many of them do. Either they defend it, they justify it. They don't defend it, but they justify their treatment. So by virtue of it, they empower psychiatry. And victims are worse in that they get to say you have a victim mentality, and so once they get cured of that victim mentality, they are used against us survivors who have victim mentality but know that we were truly inflicted with corruption, evil, fucking cages. We were fed, but we were fed in a nanny state that destroys our minds, and a nanny state where we can never go out. North Koreans, they can escape. Why? They can fucking die, but they can escape. Psych wards, how do you escape, man? You escape in a psych ward, and then something about your mental issues that were already there gets relabeled as mental illness. So that thing already is messing your fucking mind, and you get sent back in. And so some people are even suggesting, like, you know what, I used to be in the psych ward that is in the Soteria house, but okay, the psych ward was where artists went and they can like escape easily, because even though you're not allowed to escape, there was just a low fence. And it's better here now that I can't escape, and yet they cured them. Well, they're not online right now, so as far as we know, each psych ward has systems that give you conditions like that. You can't go online, social media, stuff like that. They rail on this fact that social media is toxic, but at the same time, they take advantage of these people basically just fucking giving in to them. You know, maybe I could be in social media, for example, but the psychiatrists will use their experiences to give me the conditions that I can also be on social media. Get that? That's how fucking insane it is. So survivors have sort of given up too. A lot of survivors have a problem with not hiding. They give you advices to hide first before going against an anti-psychiatry situation. The problem is this not only empowers psychiatry, it empowers anti-psychiatric deceivers. I've contacted Mind Freedom and Mad in America, Mad in Asia. Do these people help? They don't. They'll reply once and they'll like ask you, can we go for a Zoom interview? But then that's it. And I'll say, well, how will the Zoom interview help me if like 1 year and 3 months ago before I get sent in, I already sent the details to one of your staff, applications, stuff like that. This was like Mind Freedom Shield after all. So Mind Freedom Shield should be the one helping you, but they don't. At least by my experience, they didn't help me. They didn't email me again. Maybe they emailed me and get went to spam. At that point, like, look, I tried with Mind Freedom once, so Mind Freedom Shield I retried again. How much time do I have if the whole situation is how much time can I like look for a spam folder, search for something, when all these things are like building up slowly, you know? I'm not the only one that's have problems with this. And now people are like justifying we don't have budgets. Fuck, if I had budgets of like $20, will it be so bad to send a $1 plus a reply to that person a second time saying, look, sorry, we can't help you. We'll try in like X amount of days, or we'll educate you instead. So with this $1, you know what you can do? You can buy a free copy of, say, Anatomy of an Epidemic. Or wait, no, not those things. Like, how about this book I'm saying to you? This book is called The Moral Basis of a Backward Society by Edward Banfield. It's not particular to the Philippines. It's sort of an outdated book too, but like, you know, the Rosenhan experiment, which was legit. Like people could say there's a lot of problems with that, but truthfully it was impossible now to do those experiments, because think of it, I can do an experiment right now because I have been to 3 different psych wards. I've been observing these people, these doctors in their natural habitat. These doctors weren't observing me in my natural habitat, so I get to know how they act in their workplace. How would I release those documents? They don't. In Metal City, I get my notebook back, but I don't. This was the most expensive hospital. Sort of like if you don't go to like a extremely expensive place, Medical City Psych Ward is like the closest thing to 100,000 plus Philippine peso a month place that's like legit decent psych ward, and it was horrible. There's no decent psych ward, but it was like you're fucking treated as a person there. In terms of brainwashing, it's the least that will brainwash you in my 3 different stays, but there will be lies about systems. And in Medical City, imagine that in Medical City. Sorry, I have to close this right now. I'll edit this just to test how it goes. This is as good as time. It's 20 minutes. After that, I'm either edit this, but I'll keep these comments in just to show you that my mind is fried. My fatigue is fried. My brain is fried. This is like, I'm like a hamster right now. Or sorry, a goldfish or a dog. I don't know about hamsters. After like 20 minutes or so, my brain shuts down. Not exactly time. And I will be writing something. It could be 5 minutes. I'll miss a one letter. I'll be pouring airpot, and it will be gone. You know, like I will be besides that in a table and in the laptops, and I will not. It will take me hours before I remember. Oh, okay, I poured water on it, so I will not be even drinking hot water. That's just like that doesn't compare to all the other things right now. So test this audio. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, you know. Okay, so we're back. So yeah, lighting's a bit different because it's the next day. I've measured it for a while. As far as the entire march of my discharge, temporary discharge, for those who don't know, we all were released due to COVID. I have a 4 to 5 46 hours of blanking out. Not necessarily like lost consciousness or anything, but my brain couldn't function very well in that time. So things like, okay, you're supposed to open a book, open a Kindle, record a video. Your brain's like trying to block you out. So yeah, it took like 46 hours. After that 46-hour period, my brain will recover, but the stress of the scenario is like, look, there's no perfect way to warn people about psychiatry. Not just psychiatry, but the customers of psychiatry, which is, of course, the people who can pay for things like 45,000 Filipino peso a month to 100,000. There are, of course, 20,000. And, for example, my parents they didn't really send me there as much as my aunt and uncle sent me there, as they were the representatives. My parents just flat out disappeared, but of course my parents were the one paying for it. They will send me there, so they didn't expect me upon release of 1 year and a half to like head straight to a more expensive hospital and then got my bipolar canceled. Of course, it wasn't the intention. The intention was to save a guy named Junman Lapat, who was in the 20,000 per month something psych ward, halfway house thing called Plainview Custodial Ward, banging on the doors all night. He was kind of claustrophobic. People, the staff will just say it's all in your head, and it messed up not only him but our sleeping patterns. Because look, the guy's banging on. It's not just the case of a guy banging on the doors. It wasn't even like the doors were always closed. He was trying. Problem was, you know, a person needs help. So you're in that place and you're seeing that people's version of help is whack. So how do you do that? How do you pivot off of it? Well, there's this book, as I said, called The Moral Basis of a Backward Society. Last I checked in 2018, it was sort of hard because to find and to buy. I don't know if it's in Kindle. I didn't check again. And then I look it up like a basic Google search, and the Google Books version, even this one, the one I'm reading right now, it's not formatted in sort of ebook format. It's more like a scanned book turned PDF. And yet, there is the only clue you have of this existing is from Wikipedia on an article called Immoral Familism, which means basically a world or a culture where family has taken over society in such a way that society worships it, but the morality of the society, the morality of the family is neither good nor evil, but it allows evil to take advantage of these people. It allows people to redefine, evil people to redefine what is love, what is caring, what is forgiveness. They turn Bible, definitely they turn Bible books around. Like they'll give you things like, oh, somebody who got killed, and then the relatives later will forgive that relative. That's how they accepted it. Well, that relative, took years and years of like analysis. We're not being analyzed, we're being caged. And that is like a different factor. If you're a free person and then you later on uh, met the person who killed someone precious, it's tough to forgive them, but it's doable. If, of course, that person was, you understand that person, or that person was truly remorseful, things like that. But in an immoral culture, it's not about that. An immoral culture will try to demonify the idea that there is anything evil at all, for evil things. That's what make it dangerous. That's what allow it to become the seed, so to speak, of things like Nazi Germany. Uh, it There's obviously things like the Treaty of, I don't know how to pronounce it, Versailles or something. And look, I'm not German. I don't have a background in history. College dropout, high school dropout, high school dropout the second time. Not World history was never emphasized to us except Chinese history in elementary, and we were taught to memorize Chinese history. We were not taught to care for it. You will know more about our Chinese culture from playing the Romance of the Three Kingdoms series. Not, of course, Dynasty Warriors, but the Romance of the Three Kingdoms series. I personally prefer Romance 4 and Romance 6, even though people prefer, I guess some people of the old school prefer 3. But from an educational perspective of what kind of ways an immoral society could do, I thought Romance 6 did a great job of creating surprise events, and Romans of the Three Kingdoms 4 created more from a strategic point of view, a defense, a tower defense of why, even though we want to be pacifist, or even though we want to be non-violent, uh, there will be a sort of, I forgot this term, but okay, it's more like a backlash thing. I don't, or oh yeah, blowback. Blowback is something, the word in politics. It basically means uh, if you don't defend something violently, this is different from like defending yourself offensively. There will be such a thing psychologically called blowback on a culture. For example, Scientology uh, was never defended against. So the blowback of the culture is like most anti-psychiatry is associated with Scientologists. In turn, Scientologists will create the blowback of being a cult that will destroy most of what the 1960s, 1970s anti-psychiatrists, psychiatrists did to defend against the evils of their group, psychiatry. Yeah. So if you're confused, let's maybe there's a next video. I know there's documentaries of Franco Basaglia out there already, so check those out. But for now, this is book by book. I'm reading this because it's, like I said, there's no pre-formatted way to look this up easily. It's better if you could, it's a better version if it's an audiobook for some, but I think if you just make an audiobook out of this, you're not gonna get the full gamut, the full feeling of why somebody like me will be inside a place like in my room, why somebody like me will be sent 5 times despite never having killed, never having you could say broken stuff. I did some things. I'm not perfect, but it's one thing to be imperfect. It's another thing where you can't marry someone anymore because you never, that person who's you married can send you to a psych ward. You can't you lose things because of course you get sent to a psych ward, they won't get release you out no matter what. Sunshine had I think music, some kind of music museum thing with Muni Muni. She could have gotten out sooner because that was the exact date that she needed to be gotten out. Stress killed her. She was sent in. She would later forgive those people, because how long was she sent in there? 1 to 2 years. And her father or mother, I don't know, supposedly visited the music museum thing, adjusted all the budgets. There, it's a different thing if you're like me, sent 1 year and a half, come into your home, your rented place, ransacked, books sent inside this place, this right now, and broken PCs, broken tape recorders, lost external hard disks, things like that. It's lost bags, lost notebooks. On top of, okay, you're on temporary discharge. So anyways, it's much more urgent right now to just at least have a copy online of the moral basis of a backward society that's easy to consume. It's not easy to bookmark, of course, because this is not audible, but at least easy to consume. Its PDF is supposedly 1 out of 103. Okay. In such condition, there is no place for industry, because the fruit thereof is uncertain, and consequently, no culture of the earth, no navigation, nor use of the commodities that may be imported by sea, no commodious building, no instrument of moving and removing such things require much force, no knowledge of the face of the earth, no account of time, no arts, no letters, no society, and which is worst of all, continual fear and danger of violent death, and the life of man solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. Hobbes. The moral basis of a backward society, by Edward C. Banfield, with the assistance of Laura Fasano Banfield. Photographs by the author. The region of Lucania, south of Rome, south of Naples, south of Bari, south of Toronto, Potenza. The Free Press, Glasgow, Illinois. Research Center in Economic Development and Cultural Change, the University of Chicago. Copyright 1958 by the Free Press, a corporation printed in the United States of America. LC Catalog Card number 58-93-9398. Table of Contents. Map 2. Chapter 1, Introduction 7, page 7. Chapter 1, Impressions and Questions 15. Chapter 2, Some Usual Explanations 33. Chapter 3, The Economy 43. Chapter 4, Class Relations 69. Chapter 5, A Predictive Hypothesis 85. Chapter 6, Ethos and Practice 107. Chapter 7, Ethos in Principle 129. Chapter 8, Origins of the Ethos 147. Chapter 9, The Future 163. Appendix A, Education and Illiteracy, Land Use, Levels of Living, Age of Death 177. Appendix B, Responses to a Thematic Apperception Test, Southern Italy, Northern Italy, and Rural Kansas 189. Index 201. Introduction. In democratic countries, the science of association is the mother of science. The progress of all the rest depends upon the progress it has made. Tocqueville. Most of the people of the world live and die without ever achieving membership in a community larger than a family or tribe. Except in Europe and America, the concerting of behavior in political associations and corporate organization is a rare and recent thing. Okay, I'm gonna stop here for now, just to make sure this is working. Plus, I think a video editor will be great in testing if this could be merged easily in mobile. If it can, I think I'll head straight to mobile. If not, I'm gonna try VideoPad Pro. Lack of such association is a very important limiting factor in the way of economic development in most of the world, except as people can create and maintain corporate organization, they cannot have a modern economy. To put the matter positively, the higher the level of living to be attained, the greater the need for organization. Inability to maintain organization is also a barrier to political progress. Success self-government depends, among other things, upon the possibility of concerting the behavior of large numbers of people in matters of public concern. The same factors that stand in the way of effective association for economic ends stand in the way of association for political ones too. The most democratic country on the face of the earth, Tocqueville observed, is that in which men have, in our time, carried to the highest perfection the art of pursuing in common the object of their common desires, and have applied this new science to the greatest number of purposes. Footnote: Democracy in America, KNOPF, Knopf edition, volume 2, page 107. We are apt to take it for granted that economic and political associations will quickly arise wherever technical conditions and natural resources permit. If the state of the technical arts is such that large gains are possible by concerning the activity of many people, capital and organizing skill will appear from somewhere, and organizations will spring up and grow. This is the comfortable assumption that is often made. The assumption is wrong because it overlooks the crucial importance of culture. People live and think in very different ways, and some of these ways are radically inconsistent with the requirements of formal organization. One could not, for example, create a powerful organization in a place where everyone could satisfy his aspirations by reaching out his hand to the nearest coconut. Nor could one create a powerful organization in a place where no one will accept orders or direction. There is some reason to doubt that the non-Western cultures of the world will provide capable of creating and maintaining the high degree of organization without which a modern economy and a democratic political order are impossible. There seems to be only one important culture, the Japanese, which is both radically different from our own and capable of maintaining the necessary degree of organization. If there is to be more than a superficial overlay of industrialization in China, India, and the other underdeveloped countries, their ethos must be such as to allow the establishment of corporate forms of action. The ability of a culture to maintain organization cannot meaningfully be measured simply in number or size of organizations. An organization may have many members and cover a large area, and yet do very little in appraising the capacity of a culture to maintain organization. It is necessary to consider not only numbers and size of organizations, but their efficiency, i.e., the rate at which they convert valued input to valued output. In doing this, one must ask how exacting are the purposes or values being served. Obviously, it is less of a feat to be efficient in the attainment of a purpose which imposes few demands than in the attainment of one which imposes many. That a culture is able to maintain an effective military force, for example, does not imply that it can succeed in the infinitely more difficult task of creating an industrial society in which the human values are preserved and improved. If these most difficult and important purposes are taken as the standard, it is even more difficult to see how most cultures of the non-Western world can attain a high level of organization unless they are changed drastically or potentialities now latent in them find expression. While it is easy to see that culture may be the limiting factor which determines the amount of character of organization and therefore of progress in the less developed parts of the world, it is not obvious what are the precise incompatibilities between particular cultures or aspects of cultures and particular forms or levels of organization. Even with respect to our own society, we know very little about such matters. What, for example, is the significance for organization of various class, ethnic, or social or sexual attributes within our own culture? This book is a study of the culture, psychological, and moral conditions of political and other organizations. The approach is that of detailed examination of factors which impede corporate action in a culture which, although not radically foreign to ours, is nevertheless different from it, and in some respects closely similar to that of the Mediterranean and Levantine worlds. Need water, and if you notice, I'm not really very familiar with this camera. It's, it's clearer, it has more features, but it's also like it's always so weird to stare at a camera lens, especially this Oppo is like the camera lens is taking part of the screen as opposed to be a blank border. I guess this is one of those newer cams, I guess, or semi-newer. Anyways, later. Okay, let's continue. The book is about a single village in southern Italy, the extreme poverty and backwardness of which is to be explained largely, but not entirely, by the inability of the villagers to act together for their common good, or, indeed, for any end transcending the immediate material interests of the nuclear family. This inability to concert activity beyond the immediate family arises from ethos, that of amoral familism, which has been produced by three factors acting in combination: a high death rate, certain land tenure conditions, and the absence of the institution of the extended family. Our family, my wife and I, and our two children, then 8 and 10 years old, live among the peasants of Montegrano. The name is fictitious as are all local ones. For 9 months in 1954 and 1955, with the help of an Italian student, my wife interviewed about 70 persons, most of them peasants. My own knowledge of the language was non-existent to start with, and rudimentary later. In addition, we gathered data from census schedules and other official sources, from record books and autobiographies kept by peasants at our request, and from thematic perception, a perception test. It was not practical to employ sophisticated sampling techniques. To have done so would have left no time for interviewing. Therefore, we do not know how representative our interviews were. Our impression is, however, that they were highly representative of that part of the population which lives. I fucking hate cell phones. Yeah, it keeps pushing a power button, wrong alignment. Yeah, I could probably do some kind of gorilla pod tripod thing. I don't really think I want to waste time doing that right now. Anyways, impression is, however, that they were highly representative of that part of the population which lives in the town and reasonably representative of the nearby country dwellers. We are not competent to say how representative Montegrano is of southern Italy as a whole. There is some evidence, however, that in the respects relevant to this study, Montegrano is fairly the typical south, viz. The rest of Lucania, the regions of Abruzzi and Calabria, the interior of Campania, and the coast of Catania, Messina, Palermo, and Trapani. Since our intention is not to prove anything, but rather to outline and illustrate a theory which may be rigorously tested by any who care to do so, we think our data, meager though they are sufficient. There are enough data, at least, to justify systematic inquiry along these lines. Until such inquiry has been made, the argument made here must be regarded as highly tentative. Some readers may feel that amoral familism, or something very much akin to it, exists in every society, the American no less than the Southern Italian. Our answer to this is that amoral familism is a pattern or syndrome. A society exhibiting some of the constituent elements of the syndrome is decisively different from one exhibiting all of them together. Moreover, the matter is one of degree. No matter how selfish or unscrupulous most of its members may be, a society is not amorally individualistic or familistic, if there is somewhere in it a significant element of public spiritedness or even of enlightened self-interest. Footnote: an explanation, Hume said, is a place where the mind comes to rest. Some of the explanations discussed Chapter 2 or offered Chapter 8 in this book are causal, i.e., they are places where the mind comes to rest when it looks for conditions antecedent to an event and necessary to its occurrence. Others, Chapter 5, are at least superficially of a different sort. They are places where the mind comes to rest when it looks for a principle of identity in seemingly unrelated facts. 3. The concept ethos is used in Sumner's sense. The sum of the characteristic usages, ideas, standards, and codes by which a group is differentiated and individualized in character from other groups. Folkways, page 36. 4. An Australian demographer, J.S. MacDonald, has shown that emigration rates in these areas where economic aspirations were integrated only with the welfare of the individual's nuclear family have been higher than in other rural districts, i.e., the Veneto, Central, Emilia-Romagna, Tuscany, Umbria, and Marches, where aspirations for material betterment were expressed in bored, associative behavior. Italy's Rural Social Structure and Immigration, Occidente, Volume 12, Number 5, September to October 1956, pages 437-455. We wish to express appreciation for the interest and courtesies extended by Professor Manlio Rossi Doria and Dr. Gilberto Marcelli of the Scuola Agraria in Portici, and to Drs. Giuseppe Barbero and Giuseppe Orlando of the Istituto Nazionale di Economia Agraria in Rome. Mr. Giovanni Guria, now of Chicago, assisted in the fieldwork in Montegrano. Dr. Ivano Rinaldi of Perugia administered thematic perception tests in the Rovigo district and supplied information on social organization there. Acknowledgement is due the Social Science Division of the University of Chicago, which financed the study with funds from the Ford Foundation, and the Social Science Research Council, which also made a grant in aid. Acknowledgement is made to Farrar, Strauss, and Cudahy, Incorporated, publishers of Carlo Levy's Christ Stop at Ebola, for permission to quote from that book, and to Donald S. Pitkin for permission to quote from his doctoral dissertation, Land Tenure and Family Organization in an Italian Village. The present tense describes the situation as it was in 1955. Chapter 1. Impressions and Questions. Americans are used to a buzz of activity having as its purpose, at least in part, the advancement of community welfare. For example, a single issue of the weekly newspaper published in St. George, Utah, population 4,562, reports a variety of public-spirited undertakings. The Red Cross is conducting a membership drive. The Business and Professional Women's Club is raising funds to build an additional dormitory for the local junior college by putting on a circus in which the members will be both clowns and animals. The Future Farmers of America, whose purpose is to develop agricultural leadership, cooperation, and citizenship through individual and group leadership, are holding a father-son banquet. A local business firm has given an encyclopedia to the school district. The Chamber of Commerce is discussing the feasibility of building an all-weather road between two nearby towns. Skywatch volunteers are being signed up. A local church has collected $1,393.11 in pennies for a children's hospital 350 miles away. The Country Farm Bureau is flying one of its members to Washington, 2,000 miles away, to participate in discussions of farm policy. Meetings of the Parents Teachers Associations are being held in the schools. As a responsible citizen of our community, the notice says you belong in the PTA. Montegrano, a commune of 3,400 persons, most of them poor farmers and laborers in the province of Potenza in southern Italy, presents a striking contrast. The commune consists of a town lying like a white beehive against the top of a mountain, and 27 square miles of surrounding fields and forests. One-third of the Montegrano live on scattered farms at the base of the mountain and in the valley around it. The others live in the town, but since they are mostly farmers and laborers, their waking hours are spent in the fields below the town or on the footpath that wind between town and country. No newspaper is published in Montegrano or in any of the 13 other towns lying within view on nearby hilltops. Occasionally, announcements of public interest. There are fish for sale in the piazza at 100 lire per kilo, are carried by a town crier wearing an official cap, who toots a brass horn to attract attention. Official notices are posted in the salt and tobacco store, a government monopoly, and on a bulletin board in the town hall. Several copies of 3 or 4 newspapers published in Rome, Naples, and Potenza come into town by bus every day or two, but these of course do not deal much with local affairs, and they are read by very few. 25 upperclassmen constitute a circle and maintain a clubroom where members play cards and chat. Theirs is the only association. None of the members has ever suggested that it concern itself with community affairs or that it undertake a project. Impressions and questions. The merchants of Montegrano are well aware of the importance to them of good roads. They will not, however, expect to be listened to by the authorities who decide which roads are to be improved. I got sloppy. That was the air conditioning. It should maybe kill the background sound. Okay. To 11 a.m. May 31. Last day. Tomorrow there's gonna be it's gonna allow transportation, but supposedly public vehicles like bus and jeepneys are not yet allowed. At least the lawyers, as I was informed, the lawyers might be available. I don't know what that means for me though. It's tight. There's no guarantee that searching for a lawyer at this point will help. Because if I'm out of this house, they'll just argue that I'm already out, so why should I be concerned with, I guess, a restraining order? And of course, that segues into what happens when I'm in trouble. Who's the emergency guy they call? Does my temporary restraining order work if, let's say, I'm in danger and I don't need those guys? I don't fucking need people sending me back into hellhole. To make things worse, pee is not really good drink, you know, especially in like even in moderate amounts. Pee is pee. Anyways, I'm gonna continue. They will not, however, expect to be listened to by the authorities who decide which roads are to be improved. A Montegrano man write a letter to the provincial authorities in Potenza, or to the newspaper there, but it is unlikely that his doing so will make any difference. Kinda like the same here. In fact, the officials will be likely to resent what they will consider interference in their affairs. There are no organized voluntary charities in Montegrano. Philippines does have charities, just doesn't target enough people, I guess. Just still receive a lot of Facebook messages, not really tons. Like, I'm not like a frontliner or anything, but like some people, like, they receive help but they don't receive enough help. Some people don't know where to receive enough help. Some people that like die, literally die, and then their husbands use their names to sort of ask for help. And then there are those, there are those who poke fun at those people rather than help them. And then there are those that help them but don't help them enough. And the cycle continues, The thing about the Philippines, at least, is that it's a very charitable place, but it's a very, it steals from itself, as if it's intelligently thinking that it can profit off of it. For some reason, it does that. Makes it more difficult to fix, because what I mean by steal, for example, you get something like the Yolanda, big typhoon, big disaster, that huge amount of money could have been used for a Marshall Plan. It's literally like that's the Marshall Plan that you needed. Just don't fucking mess with the Marshall Plan budget. Start a Marshall Plan, don't fucking mess it up. Even if there are corrupt people, the Marshall Plan allows people to start to understand the difference between microeconomics and macroeconomic. Instead of, like, say, my cousin Don Jason Espiritu, he'll be like, you know what? Why should you talk about microeconomics? How dare you even insinuate you want to learn about microeconomics? You don't even know macroeconomics. You didn't take economic course. Like fuck, man. People are suffering, and you're more concerned about the step by step route that I keep hearing. It's not just in economics. I hear this all the time. Take a step by step. Take a step by step in the first day of class. Take the step by step in, like, first sem. Relax. People are dying. Relax. People are fuck up. Relax. You can't get proper help over the internet for free. Like, you can't get proper help from the internet for free, and you can't get proper help from the internet if you pay for it. You just have to keep learning. And some people are able to pull that off, but most people don't. Most people, they pretend they do. They get to a uncertain level, but then they they become toxic people. They become the very people that makes it difficult for the world to change, because they're not like the extreme evil. They're not the emperors, the dynasties. Neither are they the soldiers, neither are they the doctors, the experts. Neither are they the ones conducting lobotomy, but they're the ones that will make lobotomy so much harder to extinguish, if it were to still be existing today. And guess what? It does, in the form of ECT. And people are just like, you know what? Let the experts be the experts. The experts are literally saying, we don't know how ECT works. We just know it cures a person. Then they're like, experts. Like, the words of the experts don't matter as much as the experts. They don't even know the experts. They live off of that land. And that's why you'll see in this paragraph, or hopefully you'll see, because I didn't check. There are no organized voluntary charities in Montegrano. An order of nuns struggle to maintain an orphanage for little girls in the remains of an ancient monastery. But this is not a local undertaking. The people of Montegrano contribute nothing to the support of it, although the children come from local families. The monastery is crumbling, but none of the many half-employed stonemasons has ever given a day's work to its repair. There is not enough food for the children, but no peasant or landed proprietor has ever given a young pig to the orphanage. There are 2 churches in town and 2 priests. One, the son of a Sicilian peasant, and the other, the son of a prosperous Montegrano merchant. The churches do not carry on charitable or welfare activities, and they play no part at all in the secular life of the community. Even in the religious matters, their influence is not very extensive. The life of the town goes on very much as usual on Sunday mornings. The artisans are at work on a new building, as usual at 7 o'clock. The stores are all open, and the country people are on their way down the mountainside with their donkeys. Of the 3,400 people in the commune, not more than 350 hear Mass on Sunday. Footnote 1. Italy is divided into 92 provinces. The provinces of Potenza includes 97 communes and covers an area of 414 square miles. Its population was 435,495 in 1951. Potenza and Matera provinces together comprise the region of Lucania, or as it was formerly called, Basilicata. For a brief factual account in English of the physical and social geography of southern Italy, see Robert E. Dickinson, The Population Problem of Southern Italy, Syracuse University Press, 1955. Number 2. Footnote. According to J.S. MacDonald, in a personal communication, Calabrian towns over 2,000 population generally have a circle of nobles, or circle of gentlemen, circulo dei civili, and sometimes a circle of working men, but they function only as rendezvous. However, backstreet drinking dens are important. Here, the local criminals meet. Otherwise, there is no continuous membership of a recreation group outside nuclear family clique for the worker cultivator class. These are mostly women. The few men who go to Mass remain standing near the door as if to signify that they are not unduly devout. When the collection plate is passed, many people give nothing, and few give more than half a cent, 5 or 10 lire. By tradition, the men of Montegrano are anti-clerical. The tradition goes back a century or more, to a time when the church had vast holdings in southern Italy and was callous and corrupt. Today it owns only one small farm in Montegrano, and the village priests are both known to be kindly and respectable men. Nevertheless, priests in general, so many Montegranesi insist, are money grabbers, hypocrites, and worse. When members of the upper class are asked who is known as particularly public-spirited, what private persons are apt to take the initiative in dealing with matters which involve the public welfare, a few mention the Baron di Longo and Colonel Pienso, both of whom live in Rome and are believed to have great influence there. Most people, however, say that no one in Montegrano is particularly public-spirited, and some find the idea of public-spiritedness unintelligible. When an interviewer explained to a young teacher that a public-spirited person is one who acts for the welfare of the whole community rather than for himself alone, the teacher said, "No one in town is animated by a desire to do good for all of the population. Even if sometimes there is someone apparently animated by this desire, in reality he is interested in his own welfare, and he does his own business." Even the saints, for all their humility, looked after themselves. And men, after all, are only made of flesh and spirit. Another teacher said that not only is public-spiritedness lacking, but many people positively want to prevent others from getting ahead. Truly, I have found no one who interests himself in the general welfare. On the contrary, I know there is a tremendous envy of either money or intelligence. In some southern Italian towns, the gentry are said to be indifferent to the misery of the peasants, and consumed with hatred for each other. This is not the case in Montegrano. The leading families there get along well together, and many upper-class people view the peasants' plight with evident sympathy. These people are not led by their sympathy to try to change things. However, I'm taking a break for now. So it's tight. I might as well just do an Anchor.fm episode first. Horrible choice. Yeah, Anchor.fm wasn't made. Too much baggage in the memory. I kept listening to my old stuff, and technically it's still the new stuff because it was just made this month. It didn't work out. It froze me. Just on one hand you're criticizing the voice quality, on the other hand you're criticizing the events, and on the other hand you're thinking, damn, it's one thing if in the old days it will just freeze me for 20-30 seconds. Nowadays it forces me to go to sleep. I just want to go to sleep, hiding them. It's not even depression at this point. But of course nobody categorizes me as CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And what's worse is complex post-traumatic stress disorder is a term by the DSM. The DSM contributes to one of the most prolific increase in mental illness. It actually increases not only the control the psychiatrists have, but increases their salary, because pharmaceuticals want that. I'm more of a psychodynamic diagnostics manual. It's still in version 2, and the bad part about it, I haven't checked version 2. You need to pay for it, sadly. Its version 2 requires how should I put it? It requires some kind of modification from version 1, because version 1 people died. Anti-security had a lot of unlucky streaks. Franco Basaglia only got the Basaglia law because he died, so they named it after him. A lot of those movements died, but they named it after him. Bonnie Bristow recently died. Kidney failure. She has the anti-psychiatry scholarship, the lone anti-psychiatry scholarship. Jim Gostein, partially retired, told me, I don't know if that's true, but he was the lone guy who did Psych Rights, and Psych Rights, which is a website, and of course the Cyprexia papers, which is the he took and exposed the Cyprexia drugs. He took that and exposed it. All died, all retired. Not saying nobody's fighting, but they're the ones that hit, even guys like Peter Breggin, Consciousness of Psychiatry, never replies to you in email. There's an autoresponder, but that says they will reply as soon as possible, but I don't know. I mean, I've been 1 year, 3 months, got out, what's their reply? Didn't see one. Anyways, it's almost a third of the day. Tomorrow, I either find out if there's a way to just hit the law, contact them, switch, maybe even, because if the law here will be just straightforward, okay, this is how much you have to pay, but they're not. This is how much you pay for a consultation. Fuck consultation. I tried that for Brittany Araneta's girlfriend. You know what? Brittany Araneta's girlfriend backed out after I paid guy for a consultation, lawyer, 10,000 pesos. And I risked that. Not just the 10,000 wasn't the risky part. The risky part was I had to move it towards my father's cash. I had to convince them. So they were confused. Why do you need to do this at all? Could I do it with poker? I could, but remember, 10,000 will not be enough for a lawyer. So you want somebody to reduce the 10,000, and the 10,000 will be something that something that the 10,000 will be something that you will do for padding, so that you as a gambler only need to focus on the actual payment for the lawyer if it all pushed through. And because Brittany Arena's father knew the police, they, you know, kind of pull that shit off. She was afraid. I don't even know if that was confirmed as the Brittany Arena's girlfriend. Father didn't want her to be a lesbian. That's a short story. Another thing is, they are trying to contact me now. Sorry, my cage keepers, my parents. They're knocking on my door after like, I guess 2.5 days. Maybe there's something troublesome afoot here, but I think it's time to just upload this as an incomplete ebook. I'll try to do something later, maybe a complete version, but I've hit the max. This is the last, page 10 out of 103, the moral basis of a backward society. If they unlock the door, they'll find out it's barricaded. That might create hellish loose. So I only get this. If they don't, they'll probably it's a 50 or 60-40 chance that they will. 40% they won't, and they'll do it later. But I'm banking this because it was my father who's knocking, not just my mother. My mother will convince my father. My father, he's like, he just doesn't, you know. I don't have time. Sorry, I'll explain later. The affairs of the commune are conducted by a mayor, elected council, and by the provincial civil service, which is headed by a prefect in Potenza. The mayor and council propose, but it is the prefect who disposes. Even to buy an ashtray for the city hall requires approval from Potenza. Ordinarily, after a certain amount of delay, the decisions of the local elect officials are approved. But this is not always the case, and of course, approval can never be counted upon. The prefect is represented in Montegrano by the secretary of the commune. I'm gonna go on a case-by-case basis. If it looks like I could edit the video, not that it could be edited in a much better way, I'll edit it. If it looks like I can't, I'll just merge it. The prefect is represented by Montegrano by the secretary of the commune, as career civil service assigned from Potenza. With the assistance of 2 clerks, the secretary transacts all the routine business of the town. This includes especially the maintenance of tax records, of vital statistics, and the making of disbursements on order of the higher authorities. The mayor is elected for a 4-year term and receives no salary. He represents the commune on all official occasions, supervises the municipal officers, is the legal representative of the commune in dealings with third parties, and has certain powers of certification. In practice, the elected council has little power. In effect, it is seldom possible to get a quorum of its members together at the mayor's call. The elected officials are office workers, artisans, and prosperous farmers rather than persons of the highest status. The mayor, for example, is a retired non-commissioned army officers and petty landowners. His council includes, as a deputy mayor, a retired non-commissioned officer in the Carabinieri police, 4 artisans or storekeepers, 5 office workers, 5 teachers, 2 farmers, and a lawyer. The lawyer is the only one who is an upper, and even he is not one of the very highest status. The officials of the commune have nothing to do with the schools. A director of schools, independently responsible to Potenza, resides in Montegrano and has jurisdiction over the elementary schools of several communes. Public works, another important function, is also administered altogether apart from the elected government. The police, carabinieri, also are under a separate authority. The Ministry of Justice in Rome, the officer in charge locally, the Maresciallo, cooperates closely with the local authorities, but he is in no sense their man. As a matter of policies, he is not a native of the town to which he is assigned, and he and his men are under instructions not to fraternize much with townspeople. The attitude of the carabinieri towards all classes is generally good-tempered, businesslike, and aloof. Emphasis on aloof. Just aloof politicians, even the barangay, hard to deal with. Hard to deal with. Corrupt people, nice people that end up being corrupt, they have a chance. Aloof, man, tough. Although the Constitution of Italy guarantees that every child will receive schooling through the age of 14, in Montegrano, as in many other places in Italy, only 5 grades of school are taught. Unless his family can afford to send him away to school, the Montegrano child normally completes his education at the age of 11 or 12. 1/3 of the men and 2/3 of the women who were 21 years of age or over in 1954 had attended less than 5 grades of school. Sorry, let me rephrase that. 1/3 of the men and 2/3 of the women who were 21 years of age or over in 1984 had attended less than 5 grades of school. Only 5% of the men and less than 2% of the women had attended more than 5 grades. Children attend school 4 hours each morning, 6 days a week from the middle of September until the middle of June. Schools are poorly equipped, teachers are poorly paid, and the pupils, and sometimes even the teacher's attendance, is irregular. After finishing the 5th grade, some pupils can barely read and write or do simple sums. A few years later, after leaving school, peasant children have often completely forgotten what little they learned, same as me. Although I, graduated from St. Jude Catholic School, is considered one of the more legit private schools here. Sorry, not a graduate, dropout. High school 2nd year. Second time, St. Louis Manitap. Again, private school, not really good, but not horrible in Valenzuela. Here, Philippines. According to a Montegrano school official, 1/3 of the graduates are illiterate several years after graduation. For most part, these are women. Since 1948, however, a night school for adults has been attended by 12 men a year. Thus, in 8 years, 96 men, 2/3 of them farmers or laborers, and the other artisans, had learned or relearned to read and write. Until recently, a large proportion of the children living on outlying farms were unable to go to school at all. Country schools have been built, and their hours adjusted to the convenience of the farm people. In some country school, classes begins at 6 a.m. and end at 10 a.m. Few children nowadays are prevented from going to school by distance. Nevertheless, there are many who do not attend regularly. The school authorities, the priests, and the police make joint efforts to persuade parents to send their children to school. And if all else fails, a parent may be fined if his child is a chronic truant. Some of the farm people, perhaps because they see no use in 5 grades of schooling when there is no opportunity for more, send their children to school willingly, only so long as they are too young to work in the fields. Both because the schools are poor and irregularly attended, and because during the war, the operation of the school system was badly disrupted. Nearly 30% of those 10 to 40 years of age were illiterate in 1951. The rate of illiteracy was highest, 44%, among farm people living on outlying farms. An artisan's child who completes 5 grades of school is usually apprentice. However, if he is to become more than a 3rd or 4th-rate craftsman in one of the traditional crafts, tailoring, barbering, carpentry, stonemasonry, and blacksmithing, he must either go to a newly established trade school in a nearby town or serve an apprenticeship in one of the big cities. If he goes away, he may learn to be an automobile mechanic, a welder, a typewriter repairer, or the like, skills which will enable him eventually to migrate to the north. I'm cracking. No, I'll stop here.